I've owned both the Yamaha Tenere 700 and the KTM 890 Adv R, and one is simple, raw and bulletproof, and the other one is high-tech, powerful and ready for adventure right outside the showroom floors. After hundreds of hours in the saddle on both bikes, I wanted to discuss the pros and cons from an owner's perspective of both of these bikes. The T7 is simple, no nonsense, easy to live with, playful and an amazing engine. The KTM 890 Adv R, on the other hand, it's a powerhouse and it basically feels like a big enduro dressed as an adventure bike. I've dropped both bikes, I've ridden them across different terrain like highways, sand, water crossings and so on. And they're amazing machines, both of them, but in different ways. In this video, I'll go through what it's really like to live with each based on comfort, performance, electronics, maintenance and reliability. How does it actually feel after hundreds of hours in the saddle? By the end of this video, you'll hopefully know which one fits your kind of adventure. Quick context, I own the KTM 890 Adv R, the 2022 model, and I had that for approximately 2 years and I drove 20,000 kilometers on it. The Tenere 700 I've actually owned twice. I first bought it in 2021 and then now in 2025 when I bought the Tenere 700 Extreme. And I've ridden approximately the same amount of kilometers on both of these bikes. So I think I have a pretty good idea what both bikes are about. My name is Johan. And yeah, I'm trying to build some kind of community here where everyone should be able to say their opinions. And we have a saying here in Sweden, opinions are like butt cheeks, divided. So it's okay to think differently in different topics. And also, I just want to ask one thing of you. If you think this video was helpful, please subscribe because it really helps me out. And it doesn't cost a thing for you. Let's go over to segment number 1 of the comparison. Let's start with how it feels off the side stand. I mean, the T7 feels like a more substantial bike off the side stand. I can't say it feels heavier, but just more substantial. And I think it's because the tank is a bit higher on the T7. On the KTM it's down here, for better or for worse. But yeah, it just feels more substantial, basically. And when it comes to seat comfort, I can sit for hours on both of these bikes, the KTM 890 and this Tenere 700. The plus for the KTM is that you can move more forward. Since the tank is down low, you can move more forward on the seat and sit more in the attack position. When it comes to wind protection, I think I have a little bit more wind protection on the Tenere 700. But on the other hand, you have the tanks on the KTM that will protect your lower legs more. So it's a trade-off. You will have buffeting on both of these bikes and you need to wear earplugs. At least for me. I get a lot of buffeting on both of these bikes. And now over to seat height. I mean, both of these bikes are tall bikes. This Tenere 700 Extreme is 91 centimeters high and the KTM 890 Adv R is 88. And whatever you do, you have to just keep one foot down, at least for me. I just have to scooch back and forth and keep one foot down at all times. I can't reach with both feet. And I'm 180 centimeters high and I have a 32 inseam and I can reach the floor without problems if I scooch to one side, but I can't have both feet on the ground at the same time, then I will be tippy-toey. But there are lower seat options, but that's not something for me because then the seating position will be worse, I think. It's hard to get in that attack position. I was actually worried that those 3 centimeters that this Tenere 700 is taller was going to be an issue, but I haven't actually felt that it's higher, so that's a bit weird, but I think it's just because I scooch anyways and I'm used to that. When it comes to standing position on both bikes, I would say it's very similar. You can get into the right aggressive attack position on both bikes, but the bars are quite a bit lower on the KTM, it feels like, so it's easier to get in that position. But on the other hand, it's more comfortable for long rides to ride on the Tenere 700. But I would actually like that the Tenere 700 would have a bit lower bars to just get over the front wheel a bit easier. And when it comes to long ride fatigue, I can ride both of these bikes for hours and hours on highways without issues. The only thing is that the KTM has cruise control and that's really nice for those really long highway miles. And I just want to quick talk about the luggage handling. I use Kriega on both of these bikes, and the KTM had a luggage rack that I always put my tools in a Kriega bag. But on the Tenere 700 you don't have that. So I had a backpack instead, and that makes it easier to just come over with the leg also. So I really like that. And also it's easier to keep the tools underneath the seat on the Tenere 700. So that's also a big plus, especially now when I have the rally seat. And yeah, on the 890 you can have the tools in the side panels, but then you have to take them off. It's really easy, but still, you need to take them off. Before we continue, many of you know that I use Stega.io as my go-to navigation app. And they were kind enough to give 50 of you guys a free month on their app. So look in the description on how to apply it, and the promo code is Hammarlund. Now back to the comparison. The Tenere 700 has the perfect amount of power, I think, for off-road. And the KTM 890 Adventure R is a powerhouse. You have power for days on that machine. On the Tenere 700, it's very seldom that you need to shift, because the motor is like a tractor. You can go in fourth gear in very low RPMs and you just forget that you have to shift. But on the KTM, you really notice when you have to shift, and the motor feels best around 4000 RPMs, I think. And actually I was a bit worried that I might want to have more power on the Tenere 700, but I have never felt that actually. Both of these are hooligans machines, and you can really go out and just play on both of them. But of course the 890 is like a big supermoto also. With all that power, it's really fun on tarmac. Let's talk a little bit about sound, because the T7 sounds amazing. That CP2 engine just sounds so crisp when you start the engine, and just runs so smooth. And the KTM on the other hand, it doesn't have that refined sound, but that's the KTM sound. It's not that it's a bad sound, it's just not as crisp as on the Yamaha. And when it comes to how it feels off-road, both handles amazing off-road, of course. They're both very capable bikes. But the KTM 890 Adventure R, since it has the tank down low, it feels more planted on the front wheel when it's a bit loose. That I would say I can feel that it's more planted, the KTM. But the Tenere 700 tips in easier into corners thanks to the different ergonomics and the higher tank. So it depends on how you like it. I actually like that it's easier to tip in on twisty tarmacs and also on the gravel roads and so on. But I do miss that the KTM 890 Adventure R felt more planted on the front wheel. Let's talk a little bit about suspension, because my Extreme model has this KYB suspension, and the 890 had the VP Explorer suspension. And I must say they feel similar to me, but I'm not a suspension expert, so maybe you can chip in. But they feel very similar to me. And if you have the standard T7, it's a night and day difference from the KTM. So I would say this is good enough for me. And how about when you tip it over? Which one is easier to lift? The KTM is definitely easier to lift thanks to the lower center of gravity. But you can lift the Tenere 700 also. I have no issues to doing that, but it depends on what kind of strength you have as a person, I guess. And one thing that I want to note also is that the Tenere 700 really needs the brake fix, I think, from Camel Adv, because otherwise it's really mushy. So this was basically the first thing I did. Now it feels as it did on my KTM, basically. The KTM has all the features and tech in the world. And as you know, I'm a big fan of simplicity, so I always left that in rally mode 1 with throttle mode street and rear ABS off, and that's just the mode I always left it in. I never changed it, and I was never in the menu basically. And on the Tenere 700 I'm never in the menu either, but you have no tech other than the ABS on or off, and I have the ABS dongle for that, so you just press the ABS button to turn it off. The KTM also had a quick shifter, and I actually never used that basically either. But one thing that I miss about the 890 is the cruise control. But then you have to have the ride-by-wire. So then I rather have this cable throttle. So when it comes to tech, it's definitely personal what you like. And I'm a big guy of simplicity. But I mean, Yamaha from the 2025 models and up, they also have the ride-by-wires and more tech. So for better or worse, that's the future for every bike, I think. But that's where this T7 Extreme 2024 hits the sweet spot for me. It's a modern bike, but with minimal electronics. The cost to buy a KTM is a little bit more expensive, I think. But Yamaha is also creeping up in price all the time. So it's quite similar. But you can find really nice ones on the second-hand market. The only thing I would look for when buying an old KTM 890 is how the airbox looks inside, because we have some water drainage holes that is right beside the rear wheel, so it actually draws in dirt directly to the main filter. And if the main filter is not correctly seated or have some grease around it, it can actually draw it in besides the main filter. And airbox access on both of these bikes are very easy. It's just underneath the seat, so you don't have to take off the tank and so on. But I really recommend that you use pre-filter, especially on the KTM, because then you get some pre-filter for those drainage holes also that I talked about. And the pre-filter also makes it a lot more easy to manage and take care of your air filter. And also changing the oil yourself is very easy on both bikes. It's just 2 drain holes on the KTM versus 1 on the Tenere 700. I usually change the oil every 5,000 kilometers or so. So 1 time in between every time I have to go to the dealer for this bike. Let's talk a little bit about the dealer experience, because that's a big part of owning a bike. You have to go there one way or another. And around here where I live, I think Yamaha is a great dealer, and you really get a good gut feeling when you leave the bike there. Because let's face it, it's your pride and joy, and you really want someone to take good care of it. But for you, it could be the other way around, that the KTM dealer gives you a better gut feeling. And I really think that you should only give people money that deserves it and you want to do business with. And another part of the KTM owner experience is also the financial issues. It's not something you think about all the time, but it's still there, and you're not really sure what to think about it. So that's something also I thought about actually. The only thing I had issues with on the KTM was I had a coolant leak, and that was fixed under warranty. And also I had a brake light switch that was broken when I got the bike. So when I pressed the front brake, the light didn't turn on, the brake light didn't turn on. And that led to that I couldn't use the cruise control either. This happened right when I got it, so I had to leave it in the middle of the summer at the dealership, and it was there for 2 weeks or something like that. So I remember I was really annoyed about that. But other than that, that bike was fantastic, and I really loved that machine. It took me to so many great places, and I rode that bike to Nordkapp, so it will always have a special place in my heart actually. I have had no issues on the Tenere 700. Other than that exhaust hanger, when you tip on that side, it will bend into the swing arm, and it will eat on your swing arm if you don't push it out again. But there are solutions for that high amount exhaust, and maybe I would do that sometime. Let's talk a little bit about crash durability. As you can see, the T7 is very narrow, and when you tip over, the widest point of the bike is the handlebars. So the bark busters will take most of every hit. That's my experience at least. And when it comes to the KTM, it's much wider down here thanks to the tank, and the tank can take a lot of beating. And then you never need to think about that you need a crash bar or something like that. So the tank together with the bark busters on the KTM is enough in my book. But on the Tenere 700 you might want to add crash bars if you ride a lot of gnarly terrain. But for me, I ride mostly as an adventure rider, so this is enough for me. I can't think about any other issues that I've had with the bikes. But the only thing that I think about if you own a KTM 890 or Husky 901 or something like that is that, of course, you have heard about the camshaft failures from the Facebook group. And when the Facebook group appeared, I actually went to the dealer and wanted them to check out my cams. I did that at 13,000 kilometers and they were completely fine. I will add some pictures on how they looked. But it was still in the back of your mind. I think many of these issues could be related to the airbox design on the 890. But that's a different discussion. There's no right or wrong here which bike is the best, because it doesn't matter, because the bike that is best is the one that makes you smile the most. The T7 is simple, reliable and a low stress engine. Ideal for the owner that likes simplicity and want a machine that can perform no matter what. The KTM 890 Adventure R is more advanced, has more tech, and is for the owner that enjoys tech and really wants to push the limits. For me, the Tenere 700 is the right choice right now, but I really love that KTM 890 and I still miss it sometimes, just because it's like a big supermoto and enduro in one machine. Thanks for watching this time, and if you have watched this far, make sure to subscribe because it really helps me a lot. Bye bye.